Hello everybody, how's it going? And welcome to the Just Chatting Gaming News and Trailers for September 3rd. Before we get started, a quick announcement. I'm going to try something a little bit different with this show. And I'm going to change this over to a once-a-week show. So I'll be recording it on Twitch on Saturdays. And it will be uploaded on YouTube on Sunday. What I've essentially been doing just throughout the week, waiting for enough news and trailers to pop up to do a show, and then just recording maybe about 2 or 3 a week. And yeah, I think I'm just going to try something different, and we'll just do like one giant news show for the week on Saturday. So if you like that idea, if you like the shorter ones, leave a comment down below or in chat. And yeah, we'll just try this and see if it works. If it doesn't work, we can go back to doing, 2 or 3 a week. But sometimes we get like a lot of news, sometimes we don't. It just varies from week to week, and maybe just putting everything in one spot might be the way to go. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, kicking off this week, got a couple of news stories and a handful of trailers. So let's go ahead and start with Assassin's Creed. This has been rumored and leaked for a very, very long time. We now have the name of Assassin's Creed Mirage. So, if you don't know the story about this game, it was originally supposed to be a DLC for Valhalla, and they decided to go ahead and make it its own game. The other crazy thing about this is it's not going to be as big and expansive as about the last 3 AC games. They're basically saying that this is going to be a lot similar to something like Assassin's Creed 1 or 2. So they're kind of just doing a much smaller scale. And there's some people that are out there, I think there's even been some people in the community who have said that they want an old school Assassin's Creed game again. And so it looks like that's exactly what we're going to get with this one. Ubisoft is actually going to have a presentation here in about a week where I think we'll see a lot more on this, probably some gameplay, a release date, and some official details. One other final detail that's been confirmed is the fact that this is going to take place in Baghdad. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this series. I always have been. So it's going to be very interesting to see what becomes of this one. So very, very cool. Next up, we've got Phil Spencer out there talking more about the Activision Blizzard merger. On the Microsoft blog, he goes into some pretty good detail about confirming some certain things that are out there and just some general information. The big takeaway from this blog is that he has confirmed that like Overwatch, Diablo, and Call of Duty will be on Xbox Game Pass. And of course, with Call of Duty in particular, the big uproar has been they still want it on PlayStation, and it's been confirmed that at least for the next several years, even past the contract that was done with PlayStation Activision Blizzard, they are still going to release Call of Duty on PlayStation. The big key as far as the Xbox side versus the PlayStation side is, hey, you play it on Xbox, you have Game Pass, it's not going to cost you anything. Play it on PlayStation, it's going to cost you 70-some bucks. So, and I think once this article got released, a lot of people started once again talking about the Bethesda deal. They're like, well, what's happening with these Bethesda games? And I think it's just, if they're not going to do it at launch, it's just a matter of time before all these games are Xbox exclusives. I really think that's going to happen. So I'm pretty sure they've already said Starfield is an Xbox exclusive, but when you get to Fallout and Elder Scrolls and all that, they're not going to be on PlayStation. I don't see that happening. But yeah, pretty interesting stuff from Phil. Another really interesting thing about this whole deal is it's interesting watching the two company leaders kind of go at it, so to speak. Where you got Phil Spencer on on his side, and then you have the PlayStation, Matt Ryan, I think his name is, over on the PlayStation side, and how different they are. And Phil comes across as just somebody who's like much more genuine and seems to be more down to earth and stuff like that, where Jim Ryan doesn't necessarily come off that way. So it's just interesting the different company strategies. Well, let's go ahead and get into trailers. Go ahead and kill my music I got playing here. So we still have a little bit of aftermath from Gamescom. So this is going to be another Gamescom trailer. You guys might remember a game called Flintlock that we've seen a couple times. So they have a 5-minute Flintlock trailer from Gamescom. This is a open world survival RPG, if I'm remembering correctly. So let's take a look. I think it has like dimensional traveling as well.
Norvallic, to be free of them. To take revenge for what was done to me, to us.
We haven't seen too much actual gameplay from this. It's a weird creature. Oh, that little, like, fox thing is, like, warping around. So it has, like, a block parry type system? I think the little fox guy is doing more damage than the human is. Looks like there might be like finishing moves. Lost his hat. Got a lot of very unusual creature designs. Oh, you can ride the fox guy. Okay. It's a big sword. Yeah, that was an alright trailer. I feel like I'm more interested in the game now. Be interesting to see like what kind of classes there are, kind of what do they have for weapon types. That world traversal looks really interesting. Pretty sure that's a next year game, right? There's no date.
I am the answer to praise you dare not speak. For fear the gods may hear.
Okay. It's also coming to Game Pass. Alright, next up we have the launch trailer for Immortality, a game that's getting incredible reviews, also on Game Pass.
It's a bit of a fairy tale. So Arthur Fisher, the great director, was casting for his new movie, Ambrosio. He saw 20,000 girls, and long story short, he picked you.
Yes.
What is your name?
Marissa Marcel.
Did we get it right?
It's not who we think it is. Cut. That's good. Ready to move on to the standing close-ups? Miss Perkins, you can flirt with Carl now.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be the kind of game that I would like. I've seen all the trailers for it, and like every time I see a trailer, I'm like, that looks interesting, and it looks like it could be good, but I don't know. Next up, we have a pre-order trailer for Victoria 3. This is a series that I've never gotten into. Maybe I should. I think it's a kind of like an Anno style game, like a city builder type deal. Let's take a look.
Peggy 12.
And Paradox
was
does good
The
stuff.
best of times. It was the worst of times. The Victorian age promised a grand tomorrow. Now, you get to build it.
Yeah, when does this come out? October 25th. Time out. Let's bring up the sheet. That release date sounds really bad. Let me verify. October 25th. Let's see here. Game releases. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. All right, so chat, we have The Plague's Tale on the 18th, Scorn on the 21st, Tales from the Borderlands 2 on the 21st. Gotham Knights, 21st. Bayonetta 3 on the 28th, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Remake on the 28th, and this is on the 25th. Oh boy. October is going to be rough. Is that coming to Game Pass? Probably not. All right, next up we have an overview trailer for Sonic Frontiers. Hopefully, this trailer tells us what you actually do in this game, because I'd love to know. So here we go. This is an open-world Sonic game.
In Sonic's newest adventure, he's headed to the Starfall Islands in search of Chaos Emeralds with his friends, Amy and Tails, when trouble strikes, suddenly sucking their plane into a dimensional portal. Our bristly hero awakens in a strange, digital world called cyberspace. Despite being separated from his friends, Sonic miraculously escapes from this alternate dimension and arrives on Kronos, one of the beautiful Starfall Islands.
Wait. Kronos. What is... I've heard that name. What's that from, chat? That's a place from a movie. Kronos. Also, a Transformers mixed with Sonic game where he goes to... Oh, yeah. Okay. The home world of the Klingons in Star Trek. Is it in Incredibles 2? Kronos? Isn't that the bad guy's password to get into something? But yeah, I'm thinking of the Klingon homeworld, maybe. Because in Star Trek, Praxis is the Klingon moon that blows up, or partially blows up due to overmining in the undiscovered country. But was that the... Is Praxis a moon of Kronos? That I don't remember.
A curious wilderness full of ancient ruins, strange inhabitants, and sinister enemies. Our loyal blue hedgehog must now find his lost friends, explore this exotic world, and solve the mystery of the Starfall Islands. Sonic Frontiers expands on what fans know and love about traditional Sonic games, combining linear-level gameplay and open-zone platforming into a new, action-filled Sonic experience. The world map is bigger than ever, giving Sonic more room to run and explore his surroundings. Sonic Frontiers offers high-speed, open-zone gameplay that gives you the freedom to play the game in the order that best matches your playstyle. Engage in exhilarating combat with exciting new enemies, solve intriguing puzzles, and complete fun side quests to help rescue Sonic's friends. Solving puzzles will reward the player with items that can increase Sonic's power and defense, reveal hidden parts of the map, and unlock new ways to navigate the island at fast speeds. Scattered around the Starfall Islands are cyberspace portals. Defeat bosses throughout the island to earn portal gears that unlock these stages. You'll need to complete challenges within each cyberspace stage to earn vault keys that can be used to unlock Chaos Emerald vaults and allow you to progress further in the game. In Sonic Frontiers, Sonic's combat gets an upgrade, making battling enemies more exciting and fluid than ever before. With an all-new skill tree system featuring a host of new abilities to unlock and level up, you'll have plenty of options to fight strategically, combine dodges, parries, counters, and more. If you prefer more straightforward gameplay, check out Auto Combos, where various attack combos can be executed with a single button. These modes make it possible for all Sonic fans to easily enjoy the fast and flexible new combat system. Sonic's enhancements don't stop there. He's learned a new ability called Silute, a band of light that mirrors Sonic's tracks. Surround enemies, items, and areas to uncover different effects and unlock all the secrets of the Starfall Islands. Get ready to blaze your own trail and forge a new frontier in Sonic Frontiers. Available November 8th. Stay tuned for more details.
November 8th. The day before God of War Ragnarok, and also the same day that Skull and Bones releases. Yeah, I don't know about that game. I think it's really hard to do an open world Sonic game. Yeah, I don't know. Sega. All right, final trailer of the day. JT, I don't know if you got a chance to watch this or not after I mentioned it the other day. We have a 10-minute preview of Gotham Knights. I've actually already seen this, and this video tells so much more about this game. I was legit shocked. This is a very good video. Let's take a look.
Come to watch the show, Red Hood.
Nah, I'm just here to kick your ass.
As part of our visit to Warner Bros. Games Montreal, we got to see a lot of Gotham Knights being played, but we weren't able to go hands-on with the game ourselves, and that makes a traditional preview a little difficult. Without having had a controller in our hands, it's hard to say how combat, working through missions...
So I gotta say here real quick, what he just said, that's being very honest. I feel like these bigger companies like IGN and GameSpot, a lot of times they get a lot of grief from people saying things like, oh, they were just bought off to do a review or whatever. Anybody who says that has no idea what they're talking about. But I feel like when they're doing a big preview like this and he just said they wouldn't let us touch the game, that's like very, very good and very honest.
or making gear choices feels. And with that in mind, this preview will be a little more structural. With the help of the game's developers, we'll walk you through how Gotham Knights is put together, revealing brand new information about the open world, how supervillains fold into the fabric of the wider game, the game's neat approach to a day-night cycle, and more.
I just hope this game's good.
As we've spoken about previously this month, Gotham Knights' world is aiming to feel like a real city, with centuries of history behind it. Part and parcel with that is how truly open it is. The developers ensured that almost the entirety of their Gotham is open from the very beginning, with each of its 5 boroughs offering different traversal opportunities, different threats, different...
One other quick thing, I'll try and not pause it. You can tell by this that they took a look at that Spider-Man game that came out a couple years ago, which is one of my favorite games of all time. It is one of the best open world games ever made. They took a look at that game and they said, how can we make it better?
Activities and different characters. But the team also wanted to create the sense of a city reacting to the presence of new vigilantes hitting the streets.
I would say we start off the game in a pretty cold version of Gotham. The police don't like you. The citizens don't like you. And over time, the tone evolves because you identify major threats to the city. You can find out to a certain extent what's going on beneath the surface in Gotham, and you gradually build the confidence of the citizens.
Of course, some will always be on your side, and a group of citizens called the Watch act as an informant network for the Knights, offering up missions that will help stitch their parts of the city back together, all of which will see you head out into the darkness to help bring some light back to Gotham. As it turns out, Dark Knights in training like to come out during, well, dark nights. Key to Gotham Knights is that it's not a game with a shifting, continuous day-night cycle. Rather, the entire game is set over consecutive nights, with new crimes emerging every evening and villain storylines progressing alongside your work to stop them. The only time you'll see daylight in the main game is inside the Knights' headquarters, the Belfry, where you'll plan for what to do after the next sunset.
The central loop of the game experience in Gotham Knights is what we call our Belfry loop. When you exit the Belfry, it's always nighttime. You don't have to worry about when the sun's going to come up. But in the course of that night, there are going to be some crimes and other activities that are happening in the streets of Gotham that are premeditated. They were predetermined by whoever was going to commit them, the day before. When you complete a night of crime fighting, and it's up to the player to decide when they're done, but it could be a case of them saying, well, I think I've hit most of the major crimes I needed to, or it could be the case of them saying, I learned what I needed to learn and now I need to go back to the Belfry to advance the story, for example. Then you return to Belfry and now it's daytime.
Crimes in Gotham Knights come in many forms. They can range from procedurally generated muggings right up to entire gangs running complex operations. And the more you foil, the more you'll learn about crimes to come.
We wanted this concept of information scarcity. So you need to find stuff out about the city night after night.
You already have a kind of activity queue that you can be tracking and deciding, okay, I think that's going to be more important for me to take on. Maybe this is more interesting to me because it maps better to one of the challenges that I'm trying to complete. Or maybe this has
So right there, it
direct
just
impact
showed
on
character
me
switching.
finding that next chapter in the larger mystery, right? So there's a lot of different reasons why a player might choose to go after one particular crime or another.
Unlike the game's checkpointed story missions, if you fail a crime, there's no opportunity to replay that exact situation again. It's all part of the superhero learning process. Once you end a night, crimes are reset.
That night is over.
AKA, they get away with their crime.
Continued unabated, and now you're in a situation where you can look at what's coming up for the next night. So maybe you've collected enough clues that you're going to know in advance. Oh, there's going to be a heist at the bank, or there's going to be an armored car robbery, or someone's going to try to break somebody out of prison. You know, in addition to that, there's a bunch of things you don't know about, right? There's all of the other crimes that haven't been revealed, and you can find out about them through patrolling.
It's a system designed to keep offering new ideas without feeling inauthentic to how a real city might work. But of course, in a comic book city, not all crimes are created equal. Sometimes in your nightly patrols, you'll stumble across information that points to a much bigger, more recognizable threat.
Did you miss me?
We were shown precisely nothing of the game's main story campaign after its tutorial. The team clearly wants to keep its take on the beloved Court of Owls storyline as clandestine as the group itself, but the game's villain storylines aren't necessarily a part of that darker conspiracy. Like any good comic book world, multiple supervillains are running riot across Gotham simultaneously, each with their own agendas. In Gotham Knights, that means that supervillain arcs are optional side stories taking place over multiple nights and made part of the open world itself, not just story dungeons. As you learn more about the villains taking on specific missions along the way, your Belfry evidence board will begin to grow, connecting clues to evidence and eventually letting you trigger what the team calls a villain night.
You know, when we talk about villain nights, we sometimes refer to them as epic villain crime, and it's because we always wanted the villains to be menacing Gotham City. We didn't want it to be a case of, oh, I'm going to go into this sort of bubble dungeon universe and Gotham's somewhere else, and I'm just engaging with them here. And sometimes that means we do some fundamentally big changes, right? We like encase Elliott Center in ice. In the case of, one of the later missions in the Harley Quinn arc, Gotham City Hospital is going to be, invaded and is going to be thrown into chaos.
While it's very possible that these optional arcs could illuminate the main storyline somehow, the impression we got is that these standalone villains are there to enrich the sense of Gotham as a true comic book city with multiple threats to stave off at one time. And that applies to the town's gangs as well. As we've talked about before, Gotham Knights factions aren't just goons for a supervillain, although they certainly can be. Instead, they populate the city themselves, causing various flavors of mayhem depending on their affiliation. So far, we've seen the Freaks and the Regulators, and some of our footage has made mention of Red Hood's hatred for the mob.
Hey look, more scumbag looking for a beat.
This feeling of criminal elements spreading across the city is intended to get across the endlessness of the superhero's job. You're not able to wipe out a faction from the map, you're simply stymieing their work.
You can clean Gotham of crime for a night, but you can never stop it. Even Batman wasn't capable of that, and neither are you.
Practically, that means there will always be crimes to fight and combat to be had, but factions also provide another service. Each one is tied to specific gear, crafting materials, and other unlocks, which you'll use to beef up your heroes. We've covered Gotham Knights' many superhero suits previously, but that was very much from the cosmetic angle. From a more gameplay-driven angle, players will be able to...
And I believe this game has a full transmog system, and you can mix and match parts. So this is going to be a pretty cool RPG.
Gear that alters their heroes' armor, melee, and ranged items, offering stat boosts and elemental damage changes.
Take me to 4K. Come on now, what are you doing?
Crafting that gear comes down to two things, having the blueprint and the materials to make it.
All of the gear is created through crafting. There are flavors of gear, and it applies in slightly different ways to suits and melee weapons and ranged weapons, but what they kind of have in common is this focus on these elemental damage types. Cryogenic, freezing damage, thermal damage, electrical damage, poison, stun, these kinds of things.
And those interactions should become doubly interesting by introducing another player into the world. From day one, the Gotham Knights team has made clear that its take on two-player co-op is completely untethered, meaning one player can theoretically explore another's world without ever having to meet them.
Anytime you're playing in Gotham City as opposed to inside a story dungeon as part of one of the beats of the main mystery of the storyline, you're untethered. It also provides the most organic kind of superhero meetup opportunity where you think your buddy is with you and then
That's
he
how you do
disappears for
co-op in a
while
game like
because
this.
you got distracted by something and you found a collectible. And then a second later, you look up on a rooftop and a Batarang comes out of nowhere and here's Batgirl and she's here to help you stop a crime.
Of course, this could throw up issues of how progression works for players and how players at different parts of the story can interact. The solution is elegantly unfussy. Characters of different levels will scale so that they somewhat match, enemies will also scale to the player's levels, and most importantly, progression matters to the host and the guest.
When you're in Gotham, the host is their story. But 100% of your hero progression is your own. And then once you return to your own Gotham, time essentially restarts in your own story. If you completed a major story beat, a villain arc, dungeon against the Court of Owls while playing with a friend, when you get to that part in your own story, the game will ask you, do you want to play it again? Or do you want to just kind of say, you did this part in some other universe and we'll just fast forward you through it?
That's really
But
smart.
despite watching hours of the game being played live, there was a lot we weren't allowed to see. The game's main story missions are still a mystery to us, even down to how they're unlocked or displayed on the map. More intriguingly, the team repeatedly made reference to an endgame for Gotham Knights, but steadfastly refused to talk about it. Given the game's action RPG structure, it wouldn't be hugely surprising to find that it included an MMO-style raid of some kind, or, with a focus on the open world as an evolving space, if Gotham itself was materially transformed by the effects of the Court of Owls. We just don't know right now. But the biggest outlier for us is in how the game feels to play for an extended period of time. Combat certainly looks interesting, perhaps a tad heavier than the Arkham series it will be compared to, and with a much bigger focus on using special abilities you've earned along the way. Getting around the city, whether by parkour, grappling hook, bike, fast travel paradrops, or the hero's unlockable abilities, feels like a genuinely fun first affair as well. But Gotham Knights will live and die on how these things string together, and how those smaller moments make its larger structure, those nights of patrols, crime fighting, and clue gathering, feel as compulsive as the team hopes for. There's no doubting the enthusiasm and belief at the studio, but this game will be made by how it feels once it's finally allowed to be in our hands. This marks the end of our month of IGN First content, but if you want to go all the way back to the start, we've got 16 minutes of the opening gameplay from the game. We've also got a big feature on how the team made a brand new version of Gotham City.
Yeah, so I'll just mention here real quick. So by default, it only has 2-player co-op. I could see them adding in 4-player co-op at some point. Maybe, like they said, there's going to be some kind of end game, maybe dungeons or raids or something, and maybe that's where they add it in. But you darn well know that if the devs don't add it in, someone will mod it. Just like Elden Ring. If you don't know, Elden Ring can be fully played with a mod now up to 4-player co-op, just like it's an MMO or something now. Apparently that mod is very, very good. Like, everybody gets their own loot. It's untethered. Yeah, they basically took Elden Ring and turned it into an MMO. So they'll do that with this if the devs don't do it first. So, but yeah, this game continues to look great. The more and more they show on it, it just looks better and better. I don't know if they would add in more heroes. That's really, really hard to say. My feeling is that they probably wouldn't. Maybe if they did some big DLC, they would. But, yeah. All of the crafting and all that. JT in chat said, because I made a comment about how you can mix and match your gear. JT said not exactly. Yeah, I thought that I had seen another video or something on how there was like different pieces of the suit and you could mix and match that to look different. So, I don't know. But yeah, for those who are watching on YouTube, that'll go ahead and do it for the video. So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.